Slivon by Atlyrian, originally written in German, translated and read in English. Chapter 1. Eyes Open. From a question, a thought experiment emerged. The experiment was nothing but a lie. That lie became a reality. What was the self? It was something fragile, something she would not understand even after years of research. If only she had never asked herself back then. What if? Would it have made a difference? Would herself have been steered in another direction? Then she would no longer be herself. All that remained were speculations. Everything okay? Hello? Once again, after a long time, Jiyan heard voices. But on this cold autumn night, she encountered not a single soul. No one was there except her and her skateboard. Almost all the lights in the houses were off. Most people were already asleep, dreaming. The fact that she was still out alone at this hour would displease her mother. She had already prepared herself internally for the discussion. The wind made her chestnut-brown, wavy hair dance, and she felt weightless. In moments like these, she could say she felt free. Free from thoughts, free from herself, empty, ready for new emotions. Right in the middle of the pedestrian bridge, she skillfully brought the skateboard to a stop. Reality returned and captured her. "Who are you? Answer already! Do you know me? How do you get that idea?" A female giggle sounded. "Well, because you sound so familiar." "Are you waking up?" he whispered. "What? What?" "Oh, nothing." Jiyan let her gaze wander. Every time she stood on this bridge, the memory she tried to keep in check returned immediately. The metal railing was cold and reached straight into her heart. That cold made her shiver inside. Nothing helped against it. The water beneath the bridge had taken a human life. She had that one day clearly before her eyes. The final, endlessly repeating moment had burned itself into her brain and granted her no relief. The events replayed themselves over and over before her eyes, and she could do nothing to save him in time. Everything inside her froze. Not a muscle moved. She could only let the moment wash over her. "Do you live alone? Why? Why do I hear myself even though I'm not speaking?" She grabbed the railing, her knuckles turning white. When her jaw began to ache, she realized how tightly she had clenched her teeth. The water was calm and innocent tonight, and yet her brother had died in it. And one question remained. Why? For 2 years, she had been searching for the answer. One thing was certain. Her brother had been happy. None of his joy had been an act. She would swear to that. He had friends he could rely on. What had driven him to suicide? And why did he do it in her presence? Why did he want her to see it? He wanted to set something in motion within her. But what? One thing had changed since that day. Over time, it became tangible. The voices in her head grew stronger. The sky, especially the clouds, steadily lost their radiance and liveliness with each passing month. Dull, as if painted. How did she come up with that thought? How could she know what was real? "Yes, I do." "Don't you feel lonely?" "Ignore them." She had told her mother about the voices. Aside from persuading Jiyan to see a psychologist, her mother had advised her to ignore them. As if it were that easy, when they were so loud. It felt as if she were talking to someone while simultaneously standing beside herself as an uninvolved observer. These were not dark thoughts trying to drive her to suicide. The voices, one of them sounding like her own, did not speak to her directly. She was merely an unwilling listener. She couldn't interact with them or influence anything. If only she could understand what the people in her head were talking about. The conversation sounded disjointed. She had the impression that not all of them even reached her conscious mind. Is this supposed to go on for an entire lifetime? What is this? Some colorful leaves carried by the wind had drifted onto the bridge and sailed down toward the water. She leaned forward to watch them. When they touched the surface, circles formed, hypnotic circles that captured her attention. For a moment, it felt as though she had vanished, as if another place had opened before her eyes. She shook her head. What was happening to her? Once again, she stepped onto her skateboard and rode off. Compared to her, her parents had overcome her brother's death. Occasionally, anger flared within her that they had managed to do so. They had lost their firstborn, but it didn't seem to bother them anymore. Would it ever become indifferent to her as well? Was she missing something her parents had? What did she know at 16 years of life experience? She had to stop thinking. Otherwise, her self would eventually shatter. Even though she didn't know how strong that self was, how much psychological pressure could it still endure? How flexible was the self? She wanted so badly to know who she really was. What did she want? That was what she wanted to find out. Nothing more. That was enough. I'm so tired. She felt hot breath at her ear. Strangely, it was pleasant. That's good. Wake up. She quickly grabbed her ear. There was nothing there, nothing tangible. What was happening, one thing after another? The sensations were becoming more real. Wake up? I am awake. What do you want from me? Wake up! She tore her eyes open and screamed as loud as she could. I'm awake! Damn it! What? Where? A man? Looking around, she realized she was in an unfamiliar environment. She was sitting on a red carpet. Her head was throbbing. Had she fallen? Where was her skateboard? A man, she guessed he was in his early 20s, knelt in front of her. His blue eyes behind black glasses, reminiscent of the sea, practically glowed as he devoured her with his gaze. You did it. I knew it. I knew it. What? Huh? She grew dizzy. Everything blurred, and she couldn't focus on anything. Her vision turned into a vortex. What on earth are you talking about? No, don't! He snapped at her. Stay awake. Don't let it happen. Hey! Hey! Come on! Please, not now! Jiyan! Where do you know my name from? Jiyan sat up, stomach acid surging upward for a moment before she swallowed it back down. The words left her mouth before she could properly see. His voice echoed in her ears for a while. The bed creaked, and she found herself staring breathlessly into her mother's eyes. They were red and moist. Her nose was red as well. What are you doing? Her mother grabbed her hard by the wrist. Fear and anger mixed in her eyes. If something had happened to you, how would your father and I have survived that? Why was she here? Hadn't she just been lying on the man's floor? Where was he? She looked around. Nowhere. Why did her mother's voice sound muffled, as if it were far away, not right beside her? Did she have water in her ears? What happened? She asked. Where is the man? Her mother looked at her questioningly. That was the moment Jiyan regretted it and realized she should have stayed silent and kept the thought to herself. What man are you talking about? Jiyan, you lost consciousness and fell into the water. If someone hadn't happened to find you, you wouldn't be here anymore. Do you understand? Since her brother's death, her parents could no longer say the word death. Was she mistaken? Were they still suffering silently? Had she wronged them? She noticed her mother's trembling wouldn't stop. Abruptly, she pulled Jiyan into her arms, so tightly and fleetingly that Jiyan couldn't return the embrace. You know me, Jiyan began with a grin. I'm like a weed. You can't get rid of me. I come back stronger. Laughing, she looked out the window and demonstratively raised her clenched fist. This time you won't get me. Not until I'm ancient. You hear me? Jiyan, her mother snapped sharply, digging her nails into her shoulders. They pierced deeply into her flesh. Jiyan winced in pain. That's not funny. Don't ever say that again. Jiyan turned away from the window and fixed her mother with her gaze. She had intended to calm her with a smile and a few words, like she always did. But instead, her heart skipped a beat. Her eyes widened as she examined her mother. But that can't be. She was dissolving, step by step. Starting with her hands, which were still gripping Jiyan's shoulders. Holes appeared in them. Jiyan's breathing accelerated, and a cold sweat panic crept from her feet up to her throat. Screaming, she tore herself free. What was happening? Was her brain playing tricks on her? The urge to stand up and flee grew strong, but her body was exhausted. Although her mother was dissolving, she tilted her head and furrowed her brow. Didn't she notice? Didn't she feel any pain? You're dissolving, Jiyan whispered, pointing at her. Her voice failed, breaking apart. Clearing her throat didn't help. Look. Her mother sighed bitterly. Someone should try understanding your jokes. Roughly, Jiyan grabbed her mother by the collar and pulled her close until she felt her breath on her face. You're dissolving, damn it! Do something! Immediately afterward, she let go and shook her head, squeezing her eyes shut. This has to stop. Now! Come on! Suppress him! That voice again, inside her head. One more time. You managed it once. What are you saying? She heard herself say irritably, even though her mouth remained closed. Maybe I should inform the Sins. No Slivon talks like that. Are you a CR trying to kill me? Wait, stop! You must have misheard. Wait! What is happening to me? I don't want to lose my mind. Someone, help me. Nausea rose, and at the same time she swallowed back tears. When she opened her eyes, hoping that everything would be normal again, she saw the unfamiliar man with the blue eyes behind black glasses standing in the room. He was blonde, with the same side part where his hair reached his right ear. It was him. the one she had seen outside before she had lost consciousness and ended up in the hospital. This time, he was wearing a doctor's coat. Another doctor stood beside him. Her breath caught in her throat, and she couldn't tear her eyes away from him. "You're awake, thank goodness," said the older doctor, turning toward her. Instead of Jiyan, her mother nodded, still dissolving into tiny spheres of light. One hand was already gone, and half her face gradually disappeared. Did no one notice except her? "Why did you tell me to wake up when I wasn't asleep?" She examined the man with the glasses, who stared at her in confusion. "What did you mean by—" "Excuse me, but do we know each other?" he asked. His voice sounded different, much darker, deeper. "Today is my first day at work. I'm wondering how you know me." Slowly but steadily, something burned inside her, something that wanted to break free. She grew louder than she had intended. "Do you want to make a fool of me? You told me to wake up, over and over. You're always in my head, and—" She broke off when she realized how pointless it was. The man turned to the doctor for help. Her mother, only half present now, shook her head, tears forming in the single eye that remained. What kind of image did Jiyan present? What was she in the eyes of those present? Insane? Although no one touched her, she felt herself being pulled. A tremendous force held her in place. Again and again, the man told her to stay, even though his mouth did not move. "What is going on?" She pressed her hands to her head. Never had she experienced anything this intense. "I'm sorry, I can't let you go," he shouted, his voice clear and unmistakable. "Come on, Jiyan, wake up. Otherwise I'll be in serious trouble. Come on!" "Let me go, you damn CR!" she heard herself scream. Images flashed through her mind. Images of a place that didn't belong to a hospital. What did it mean? The gaps grew smaller. It was as if she were zapping back and forth between two television channels, faster and faster. "Stop! My head is about to explode!" She heard someone move. The man in the hospital touched her shoulder, and Jiyan tore her eyes open, holding her breath for a moment. "Are you okay?" That voice didn't sound real, distorted. The words came far too slowly. His figure twisted and warped until dizziness overtook her. "Wake up, please!" She inhaled deeply and opened her eyes. What? The man was gripping her from behind. He was strong, too strong, and she was weakened by confusion. The hold was awkward, leaving her unable to counterattack. So she stopped resisting and relaxed her muscles immediately. Fighting was pointless. In the next second, he released her and examined her closely. They were standing in front of an entrance door. Slowly, she turned toward him. "What's happening to me? Can't anyone give me an answer?" "You're awake? For real?" "Yes, man." Jubilant, he pulled her into his arms so forcefully that she lost her balance and hit the back of her head against the wall. She shot him a dark look, but he didn't notice. "That was insanely close for me. Thank you, thank you." She sighed. The pain faded quickly, but she rubbed the back of her head for a while. Who are you? Just say it already. He loosened the embrace and stepped back. Me? Oh, right. Yeah, I'm Kilan. Welcome back, Jiyan. Chapter 2. Irony. How do you know my name? She touched the blue wallpapered wall. Was it real? She knocked once, and a dull sound answered in confirmation. At least it felt and sounded real. So she wasn't dreaming? What else remained, other than the possibility that she had gone insane? Had her brother's death affected her far more deeply than she realized? Had she been trapped in negative emotions for too long, losing her grasp on reality and creating another life inside her mind? All of it just so she could cope with the loss? Was that it? Say it already, brain. Is that it? The Slivon introduced itself as Jiyan Slivon. That's how, he told her bluntly. The name sounds very beautiful, by the way. I wonder if it has a meaning. She frowned. A pulling sensation stretched from her temple to her forehead. She grimaced. He even knew her last name. Slivon? Exactly. He nodded in agreement and raised his hands in a calming gesture. Listen, I know this. You're confused and don't understand anything at all. How about we go into the living room and talk calmly while sitting down? I can make you some tea. Maybe it'll help you relax. The hallway of the house was long. She looked from the front door all the way to the end. Nothing unusual. Everything completely normal. Skip the tea. She started moving. She had no other choice. If she wanted information and to understand her situation, she had to play by his rules. I still have the element of surprise on my side, she thought, staying prepared for any case. If it gets dangerous, one precise strike and then run. Got it, Jiyan? Exactly like that. Upon entering the living room, she saw a black sofa, a wide red carpet beneath it, and a television standing almost uselessly in the room. He didn't seem to indulge in luxury. The living room window occupied an entire wall from top to bottom. The blinds were pulled down, as if he didn't want to be seen. Aren't we living in Shoreham, BC, in the year 2118? Kilan dropped onto the sofa. He clasped his hands and rested his elbows on his thighs. Yes, more precisely, October 2118. Shoreham by Sea is now also called the Glass City. 80% of the buildings are made of DRs. Made of DRs? She slipped her fingers between two layers of the blinds and pushed them apart. She could barely make out that it was night and that nothing special was happening on the streets. At least the time of day matched her dream. Could she even call it a dream? Her world, her family, her entire life. It was ridiculous and terrifying at the same time. It's a material that's transparent and magnetic, but also repels electricity, he explained. Where in the world have I ended up? What am I doing here? In that very moment, she realized the voices in her head had stopped abruptly. She could hear only herself. Just once. Was she cured? She truly enjoyed the silence in her head. Finally, it was quiet. Why would a house need to be magnetic and repel electricity? She asked. She crossed her arms and turned toward him. Was it even justified to distrust him, considering he had most likely saved her? But from what? How had she even come to that assumption? He sighed. Probably the CRs, or the sins. I can't say for sure. One thing is certain. Both benefit from it. Look, words keep coming out of your mouth, but I don't understand a single thing, she said. That made him laugh. It sounded pleasant, but she wasn't in the mood. She walked toward him. Do you think I'm stupid? Are you making fun of me? Her patience had run out. This Kilan was a storyteller who enjoyed deceiving people. He was mistaken if he thought she would believe him. He tilted his head, pressing his palms firmly against his chin. Excuse me? Why would I do that? Is it tiring to stand? Then sit down. What? He gestured with his arms as if holding a baby. Being carried in someone's arms, you said. Yes, you! You've been taking me for a fool this whole time! She pointed at him, her finger hovering right in front of his face. He grimaced and pointed back at her. What are you talking about? You've been standing the whole time. What? She forced out through clenched teeth. She grabbed his collar and shook him so hard his glasses fell off. What are these games supposed to be? Without much trouble, he freed himself and dropped to his knees. He felt along the carpet, repeatedly missing the glasses that had slid halfway under the sofa. He stared helplessly into nothingness while his hands kept searching. Can you help me? I can barely see without my glasses. What, really? You'd never guess, she said flatly, letting her ironic streak loose. She bent down and grabbed the glasses before he could even come close to touching them. His face was full of question marks. How could you not notice that? Is this man just stupid? She thought, resisting the urge to roll her eyes. Most likely. Oh, just forget it. She opened the temples and put the glasses back on his face, then quickly patted his cheek. Sorry for being so rough. Good thing they're still intact. I really should get myself under control. I don't take it personally. It's fine. He adjusted the glasses and smiled at her. Now that he could see properly, he looked straight into her eyes. Either he truly was the type of person who forgave easily, or he hid his emotions well and silently murdered her in his thoughts for everything she said and did. Once again, she looked around with interest. Do you live alone? No. She noticed him smirk out of the corner of her eye. She would mentally kill him if he kept that up. A friend who's currently out gathering information lives here with me. Great. He could show up any second and have bad intentions. Hey, what exactly do you find so amusing? Oh, the Slivon asked me the same thing, but I couldn't tell it the truth, he admitted. What is a Slivon? What is a CR? And what are sins? She wasn't sure why she was even playing along with his act. Even if she was dreaming, even if this world wasn't real, even if she had gone insane, she wanted to understand this life. CRs and sins are both organizations that hunt each other. He began. His face suddenly turned serious. CRs are rebels who fight for human freedom. The sins, on the other hand, are the soldiers of the Slivons. He extended one arm and set her down on his leg, clenching his hand into a fist repeatedly, as if a nurse were about to draw blood. Slivons live inside us. They come from outer space. Neither we nor the Slivons themselves know much more than that. Without a body, they can't think or store memories. Supposedly, they drifted to Earth by chance about 100 years ago. They're still researching themselves. Once inside our bodies, they suppress our consciousness and place us in a dream world. Everything there feels real, authentic, believable. You never think to question it unless you slowly wake up. These beings float through the air, searching for an empty host. That means... He stopped abruptly when he heard her sob. Immediately, he stood up and raised his hands apologetically. Oh no! Are you okay? Was that too much? I'm an idiot. The longer he spoke and the more she listened, the stronger the goosebumps spread and the harder it became to hold back her tears. Her heart felt unbearably heavy. So, you're telling me we never truly lived? That we were in a fake world the entire time? That can't be true. I never lived. I don't even exist. These are the facts, Jiyan. Bullshit, she screamed, cutting through the air with a hand gesture. Since the day I was born, I wasn't here? Then who am I? Who? Say it. She clutched her head. Who am I? I couldn't believe it at first either, he admitted. Why did he sound so honest, so compassionate? I woke up alone with countless questions. I could just barely see the Slivon that had lived inside me die. I don't know how, but I killed it. I didn't understand the world. There was no one to explain anything to me. Jiyan, it's okay. Really. He stepped closer and wrapped his arms around her. I've got you! Nothing was okay. The life she had lived had never been real, right? The feelings she had felt, the thoughts she had thought, the sensations she had experienced, everything was an illusion. Or wasn't it? It felt as if her head were swelling, as if the racing thoughts wanted to burst out with full force. Should she hate the Slivons for stealing her life? That wouldn't give her lost time back. How? How could Kilan remain so calm knowing all this? I need to get outside, she declared, pushing him away. The air felt too thin, suffocating. Before he could react, she ran to the door. She heard him call her name, but she didn't stop. What if he was lying? Maybe he was playing games with her. She had to see with her own eyes whether his story was true. She ignored his calls and opened the door. Once outside, she moved a good distance away from the house. Kilan stood in the doorway, clutching the frame, shaking his head at her. The house he lived in was smaller than she had expected, barely large enough for one person, taking up little land. Compared to it, the other buildings in the city were immense. Had it always been like this? She couldn't remember. He called after her again, trying not to raise his voice. She couldn't hear him clearly, but she could guess he was practically begging her to come back inside. Was he trembling all over? How could he fear the outside so much? What was he afraid of? Ignoring him, she ran farther, wanting to explore the world. Suddenly, she stopped and looked up at the sky. Her mouth fell open. Above her floated oversized, almost transparent soap bubble-like beings, something slimy and gelatinous, constantly changing shape, with no real limbs, glowing in a bright, toxic green. They continuously deformed, taking on new shapes. At varying distances, parts of their bodies appeared slightly darker or lighter. At their center was a glowing pink core, about the size of a tennis ball. One thing was certain that night. They were beautiful, beautiful to behold. They stole the stars' attention, making them look dull and pale. Jiyan tilted her head back, spread her arms, and smiled. She had never seen anything more beautiful in her life. Never. Suddenly, she was torn from her fascination. Someone grabbed her arm roughly and yanked her back. She turned to see Kilan, out of breath, eyes wide, face pale. "Quick, we're going home," he commanded, pulling her with him. Being outside, especially at night, is dangerous, especially for me. She applied a leverage technique she had spent countless hours training. She didn't need much strength, just skill to break free. "Why? Then go and leave me here alone," she replied. He was still trembling, constantly glancing upward. "Are those the Slivons?" She pointed at one of the glowing creatures in the sky. He pressed a finger to his lips. "Not so loud. You'll give yourself away. Some might still be awake, or sins could be patrolling." "Oh yes, there are so many people around watching us," she said, gesturing broadly. There was no one around to hear them argue. His overcautiousness was a bit much for her taste. "What?" He looked around nervously and frowned. "Thankfully, not yet." "What are you babbling about?" she snapped. "That was irony, Kilan. You know." Her words died in her throat when he suddenly grabbed her and dragged her along. One of the Slivons slammed into the ground. Steam rose as it reassembled itself and floated back into the sky as if nothing had happened. "Kilan, what?" "Run!" he shouted, grabbing her hand. More Slivons shot toward them, emitting a shrill, whistling sound like fireworks launching into the sky. They crashed into the ground just beside them. One grazed her leg, and a burning pain flared. Part of her pant leg had melted away. She groaned. "How hot are they? Is their shell made of plasma? What are these things? Are they trying to kill us?" As they fled, she realized it had been a mistake to leave the house. He hadn't lied. His caution hadn't been exaggerated. The world she had known was a lie. This world was real, and if they didn't find the house quickly, things would end badly. Were the Slivons becoming more aggressive? Another observation made it clear. They were mainly after Kilan. Whenever they were separated and he let go of her hand, the Slivons focused on him. Was it because his body was empty? "Where is your house?" she asked, helping him back up. He seemed to have lost his orientation. At night, everything looked different. He barely had time to look around. The Slivons gave him no peace. It was a miracle that no lights turned on in the surrounding buildings. Were people used to Slivons hunting at night? Jiyan couldn't wait for someone to wake up and alert the sins. She had to act. Now. But how? Was there really nothing she could do to distract them? Her self-defense training was useless against monsters. The Slivons were fast, hot, and seemingly immortal. There had to be a weakness. "We need to get back quickly," Kilan said. "We're drawing unnecessary attention. Watch out!" He shoved her away and dodged. A Slivon struck the ground exactly where she had stood. Once again, he had saved her. The shockwave and heat spread across the ground. One of those things lived inside her? Why hadn't she felt the heat? Had it hurt when it entered her? Why couldn't she remember anything? Had she been too young? She shook her head and slapped her face with both hands. This was her fault. She had to get Kilan to safety. There was no time for speculation. "If we survive this, I'll eat a broom," she shouted. "It won't taste very good," he replied, grimacing. She was about to add another ironic remark, but she froze when she saw a Slivon behind him. She tried to push him away, but she was too slow. The Slivon latched onto his back. The Slivons in the sky stopped moving. Silence fell. "No!" Kilan screamed, freezing for a moment. He scratched at his back, but his arms were too short to reach. His face twisted in terror. "I never want to go back to the dream world. Never!" What was she supposed to do? The Slivon sank deeper into him, as if being sucked inside. Did the heat not hurt him? Or did an empty body react differently? The Slivon's core nearly touched his back. Was it over? She stood frozen. She could only watch. She dropped to her knees. "No!" A hiss rushed past her ear, blowing her hair aside. An arrow pierced the Slivon's core at incredible speed. Electricity erupted. Kilan screamed in pain. Jiyan spun around. On one of the tall rooftops stood a figure holding a bow. Had they really aimed so precisely from that distance, or was it luck? The person was dressed in black. Parts of their clothing, even their boots, glowed toxic green like a Slivon. They wore a mask, and the hood was pulled deep over their face. Only their eyes were visible. They wore gloves. Was Jiyan imagining it? Or had the masked figure aimed at her for a split second? Kilan clutched the ground, gasping. Jiyan snapped her attention back to him. The Slivon's body evaporated, melting out of him and flowing onto the ground like thick liquid. The electricity faded. Kilan struggled for air, his hair standing on end. She didn't dare touch him, didn't dare speak. Was he still Kilan? Was the Slivon truly dead? "The CRs," Kilan rasped, looking up at the roof. "After them go Jiyan." "What?" She froze, overwhelmed. "What am I supposed to do, Kilan?" She looked back at the roof. Another masked figure had joined the archer. After exchanging a few words, both vanished. "Come on!" she urged herself. She hauled Kilan up with all her strength. As soon as the Slivon died, the sky grew restless again. The Slivons charged at them relentlessly. They ran and ran. If Kilan were caught again, it would be final. She didn't believe the archer would save them twice. "Right!" he shouted. When she saw his house, she exhaled in relief. Just a little farther. They'd make it. Strangely, the door was open. Had he forgotten to close it in the chaos? They leapt inside and slid across the floor. A Slivon zipped past the threshold, scorching the ground. The welcome mat was gone. Jiyan slammed the door shut. Safe. They were safe. Kilan lay there, breathing rapidly. She leaned on her knees, drenched in sweat. What kind of world was this? The one they truly lived in. These creatures, beautiful in the sky yet violently stealing human lives. She wanted to avoid them for now. She heard footsteps from the living room. Had someone broken in? She remembered the open door. A sin? An enemy? Her body reacted. She could take on one person. She rushed forward. Jiyan, wait! She rounded the corner and instinctively threw a punch. She would have hit the person's head if they hadn't blocked it expertly. Immediately, they grabbed her wrist, preventing her escape. What? Jiyan, it's okay, Kilan said, leaning against the wall, gasping for air. His body still twitched as if electricity were flowing through him. That's my roommate, a friend. The person tightened their grip painfully and stared darkly into her eyes. I leave you alone for a few minutes, and you almost get yourself killed, Kilan. I'm sorry. Don't be mad. This can't be happening. I'm losing my mind. Obviously. They say this is called irony of fate, Jiyan said. Don't they, big brother?